At 7:34 a.m. on the morning of September 11th, 1974, Eastern Airlines Flight 212 crashed 3 miles short of the runway at Charlotte's airport. There were 82 people aboard.
And I can remember, as I was losing consciousness, thinking to myself, so this is what it's like to get killed in a plane crash. That wasn't so bad. Well, I got that wrong, because it got bad. It got real bad.
The plane literally crashed and burned, first through a cornfield and then through a patch of woods. The wings ripped off as they hit the trees, and the plane broke into 3 pieces. The impact alone killed 32 people, including the plane's captain, James Reeves. For the 50 people on board who survived the initial impact, another immediate danger loomed: fire.
It was just like you see in a movie. Exactly like it. Everything is shaking, the light flashing on and off, and then this fireball comes down through the fuselage.
I was inside the flame, so it was not as fiercely burning, even though we were in the flame and it was hot and it hurt. And when I got up, I fell down, and I noticed this green branch next to me, and I reached out and I pulled it, tried to balance myself, and I was balancing on one foot, and I pulled the branch for me, and all the green leaves shriveled up into black. And I said, "Gotta jump."
In the air traffic control tower at Charlotte, Pete Hogan was working the morning shift on September 11th.
We had a real bad fog bank on final for runway 36. And as I was looking out the window, I saw a big bunch of smoke come up over the top of the fog bank. And I said to myself, I sure hope that guy didn't crash.
Of the crash survivors, flight attendant Colette Watson was the only one who escaped with barely a scratch. She and passenger Frank Mihalik helped save the life of co-pilot Jim Daniels by dragging him out through an open cockpit window.
We dropped him out. I think he had some broken bones. Jim looked at me and he said, "I need a cigarette." After we got Jim out, we could hear sirens and all that coming for help, and I remember walking around and seeing this young girl. Her hair was singed to her roots. Her clothes were blown off of her body, and I grabbed her and I said, "Let me help you." And when she laid down, the first thing she said to me was, "I want my mama." And I said, "I'm getting her as fast as I can."
Among the victims of Flight 212 were 3 members of the Colbert family of Charleston: Dr. James Colbert and his teenage sons, Peter and Paul. James Colbert left behind his wife, Lorna, and their 9 other children. The youngest of those was named Stephen. He would later change the pronunciation of his last name to Colbert.
An army of first responders started to arrive at the crash site, and the media wasn't too far behind. One of the first journalists on the scene was Mark Etheridge of the Charlotte Observer. At the time, he was a young general assignment reporter.
There weren't many of us who didn't have beats, who were just kind of on standby. As we used to say, ironically, in case the plane crashed. Well, here it had. I was pretty new to the job. I'd been at the Charlotte Observer a couple of years, and so I went up to one of the ambulances and I said, I got to get in there. I'm going to get fired if I don't. And they said, hop in. hide under the stretcher. And I did. I was on the floor. And it stopped, and I got out and, looked around, and we were inside the police tape, and the scene was, kind of unfolding in front of me. It was Dante's Inferno. It's hard because I don't cry when I think about it. I cry when I talk about it. Now, I don't know why that is.
There was so much destruction, so much death. And by the afternoon of September 11th, 1974, so many questions. First among them, what in the world had happened to Flight 212 to make it crash?
An Eastern Airlines jet preparing to land on a stopover at Charlotte, North Carolina, crashed this morning, killing 69 persons. 13 survived. Bruce Hall reports.